We never thought we'd see the day when Glenn Hoddle gets substituted for Graham Poll. That's a highlight, isn't it? That's a highlight.
That's made my day.
I bet. Look, Graham, so many questions coming in for you on social media. Thanks for joining us just to sort of have a brief chat about your life as a referee. The first one that's come in, and a few people have asked this actually, funny that. Have you ever had to flee a football ground because of angry fans?
Yeah, I did. It was a Monday night game, Sunderland Man United. I don't know if Rio was playing in that. I think Sunderland might have been top at the time. He was second. Sent two Sunderland players off.
Right.
And actually, I got smuggled out because the Sunderland fans surrounded the ref's vehicle. They knew where we parked.
Wow.
So I got in the assessor's car in the back and put a blanket over me and got me out the back of the stadium.
Mm-hmm. That is crazy.
Yeah.
But it just shows you what it means to people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it's difficult because, I mean, I'm there blaming a ref today for the Watford thing, so I'm no better than everyone else. It's a difficult situation. It's a very emotional game, and you have to respect that. But you've also got to respect, Roger East today, for example, he didn't mean to make a mistake in that game. Michael Oliver missed a penalty today, should have given a clear penalty. Referees don't mean it, it's just one of those moments. Players make mistakes in games, you miss it a pass, centre-forwards miss open goals. We're human beings, and you just got to try and keep some perspective on that if you can.
What made you want to be a referee?
I didn't.
Why
you had
not?
no mates, did you? When you were growing up, you had no mates.
I tell you, I haven't got any in here. It's one of those funny situations. I was probably as gifted as Rio on the field, but I thought
Many people were.
Yeah, I thought I had a bit more speed, so use it down the. But no, the team folded. I wasn't that great a footballer, to be honest, and it's something I fell into. My dad had been a ref, only local park stuff, and it just one of those things that happened. And after about 4 games. Two players from each team come up to me and went, "Thanks a lot, that was a really good, ref." And I was only 17 at the time, and that's kind of the praise you don't get as a 17. Well, I never got as a 17. You two probably did as footballers, and that was it. I was away, and once it gets into your blood, you're there.
I played obviously with Rio, against Rio, and he was one of the worst when it comes to moaning on the pitch. Right, he would not stop getting in referees' ears. Now. How do you attract referees now? We're in a stage now, referees are constantly getting kind of berated on television, by pundits, by players on the pitch. How do we attract the new generation of referees to go, this is a great job for you?
It's a good question. It's interesting now that people are targeting being a professional referee, because when I started there was no such thing as professional referee. And bear in mind, you have 6,000 guys stop being referees every year, and they have to attract 6,000 new ones every year. So it's a big task, and it's more about retention, because a lot of guys do 1 year and give up because they don't like the hassle and the stick. And the one thing that any referee does that sticks at it, they love football. That's why they do it, because they love it, and that's how you pay back.
Do they get paid good money now? What type of money would they get paid?
Yeah, a professional referee on the Premier League is about 100 grand a year. A year, not a week.
Good money, that, isn't it?
A year, not a week.
Yeah. Still good money, Graham. Still good money. Did you notice over time with super slow-mo replays and all of the football that's televised now, and particularly the advent of social media, just how much the scrutiny on a referee's performance became almost as important as one of the superstar players?
Yeah, massive. I mean, it was more difficult for us because we were used to not having it when I first got onto the top leagues, and it gradually increased. The difference now for someone like Michael Oliver, that's all he's ever known. Yeah. So he's used to that. So anyone coming in fresh now, that's what it attracts. So you know what you're heading for. Whereas for us, it was difficult. I used to go home from a game, and I thought I got them all right, and it wasn't a problem, and we didn't get the scrutiny. And you thought, well, that's all right. I thought I was quite good. And then over a few years, you start getting lots of replays, and you realise actually it wasn't. And it's a real mess with your mind when you're shown something that you think you've got right, and it's wrong, and you think that's not the same incident. That's not the one. They show me a different incident, and it isn't. It's the one, and it really plays with your mind.
You must have had obviously you refereed loads and loads of games and come across loads of different crazy players. Yep. Some good, some bad. Who were the most volatile people that tried to sway your decisions most when you were refereeing?
Well, Keano would be. He's a strong player, Roy Keane. Just because he would dominate. He would dominate his own team as well as the opposition, and therefore the referee as well, by his sheer will. He would never try and. I don't think he would ever try and con you or cheat you. But there was just something about him. There was almost an immovable force about Roy that you just thought, bloody hell. And he was scary.
How would you deal with him?
I tried to get on his wavelength, and I tried to make him smile. because I could see some anger rising in him. So I would talk to him, and because I refereed Man United 57 times. So you know, you've got the chance to kind of establish some kind of rapport and relationship with people, and that's what I would try and achieve. Some people didn't like it when they watched me referee, and they said you talk too much to players. I'm not sure you were over keen on it. I think we were all right. We got on okay together.
What made you think Jermaine wasn't over keen?
That look he just gave me.
Wait, is that right?
What, over keen on talking to referees? Some referees I got on with, some I didn't get on with. And if there was certain situations where I felt like the referee wasn't communicating with me very well, I was better off just kind of going, right, I'll just deal with it myself, rather than getting, because all I'd get is frustrated and angry, and it just started to affect my performance. So I just kind of have to just put it to the side and just be like, I don't want to talk to you, just let me do what I'm doing. And then, honestly, it can. Training is one of the worst places that you experience it as for any kind of coach who's a ref. And that's when I found out I've got to stop doing this. Because in training I would be screaming and shouting at people, and I thought, you know what, I've got to stop having a go at referees. It makes no sense.
And the art of refereeing as well is knowing which players do want to talk and do want to communicate during a game, and knowing which players don't. And you leave the player alone, because you must never affect a player's mood or ability to play adversely. You can't do that. It's not what you're there for.
It is weird though, because there were referees who I used to think if I screamed for decisions, invariably you'd get a decision. They'd not sway your way, but because you screamed first sometimes, it must be
Graham one of them?
Yeah, I used to bully Graham, but no, I'm joking. No, but you did. I used to scream for everything. Yeah, I used to think if I scream for everything, it's just in my psyche. If I scream for every decision, I'm going to get more than I don't.
And what about like when you're warming up before the game? Were you slightly aggressive towards the ref? Were you friendly to the ref? Because the games start right from the minute you arrive at the stadium, don't they?
I used to always in a tunnel. If the referees would walk past, I'd always say, "Come on, ref, today you've got to give us a couple. Give us a couple today." You were disgraceful last time, bud. I remember that. Just try and get in there somewhere.
You learnt from Fergie, didn't you? Because he was the master at it. He knew exactly the right.
What did he used to do?
Press. Well, the first time you went to Old Trafford,
they used to have a hot cup of tea for starters.
He'd get right into you. He'd have a go, even if they won, just to go, that's what I'm like, even when we win, so make sure you don't...
Before the game or only after the game?
After the game. Generally wouldn't speak to you before the game. I went the second time as an Arsenal game, funny enough, and I walked up not the players' tunnel, but the tunnel by the changing rooms, and he's standing at the end, and I actually went up and said to him, "You know me, don't you?" "Yeah." I said, "You know what to expect today?" And he went, "Yeah, all." And I said, "Well, you won't be disappointed." And that was it. And from that moment, he said to me afterwards, I spoke to him afterwards, he wrote a piece in my book for me. He said, "I respected you from that moment because you were willing to stand up to me." And you think, that's nice. I mean, he still had a go at me many times. Of course he did. The hairdryer was off and on. But he really could dominate some referees, no question.
There's been loads of questions come in for you, so if we could just get through a few of them, that'd be great. Just quite short answers, just to allow people to have their question asked. James Drury, would you like to introduce a 3 yellow card before a sending off law?
I pioneered it. It hasn't worked so far.
Can you briefly give us the story of that? Like, at what point did you think, he's had 3 yellow cards?
In the changing room afterwards, about 20 minutes later, yeah, we had no idea. We were celebrating. Our next game was the final.
Oh, man.
And we had no idea. Both assistants were English. What do you
put that down to? Because that's a fundamental ability, isn't it, of a ref, is to know how many yellow cards a player has had. Yeah. Had you not written the name down on the back?
Stupidity, fatigue.
Really?
I still don't know to this day.
Strange.
I've never had to refer to... I've sent off 123 players for second yellow cards, and I've never had to refer to my notebook to know I've done it, because what I do is mental note, I know I've cautioned him, and I look at players, because the technique is, if you've been booked and I'm going to book you again, I'm nodding at you to go, "You're off," you know you are. And half the time the player realises he runs off. So it's almost like you're accepting it before I've even gone. So it was just it's one of those perfect storms, or the worst storm for me. I say probably cost me the ultimate football match.
Yeah.
Mind.
Hey, you're here now. Trev, why is the standard of our professional referees so poor that we have none going to the World Cup?
I don't think the standard is poor.
Right.
The reason we have none going to the World Cup is Mark Clattenburg, who was probably the #1 referee in the world at the time, decided to retire and seek his fortune elsewhere. Can't blame him, it's good money for him. And we didn't have another referee in the elite group.
OK. Stuart says, would a mic help the referees to get less abuse from players?
It could do, but the players and the managers don't want it.
Why not?
Because it would expose some of the stuff that's being said out there that they don't want.
Referees ain't angels, by the way.
I know. I got reported once.
Yeah, it's not just the players. Referees have got a lot to say out there. Trust me.
Really?
Oh, definitely. They come straight back at you with the same language.
But you sort of need to, though, don't you? You have to be on the players' way.
When I played, I loved it when I shouted. Like Graham was one of them. If I said something derogatory to one of them. Toned down, obviously.
Yeah.
I loved it when they came back with a bit of banter towards me, because then I was on a good wavelength for them, and I thought that we can talk a little bit throughout the game and almost help each other through the game at times. And I think that's important. I think that's something that's kind of crept out of the game a little bit.